In China, I was a nerd. Like I was such a nerd, right? Because I mean, growing up in China, like if you want to be the popular guy at school, you gotta be a good student, get all the good grades and whatever, and all the girls will pay attention to you. But when I moved here, I found out it's like not
It's the
the case.
opposite.
It's the opposite. I'm like, okay, so I got to do some sports.
I'm Sara Jane Ho, and this is Mind Your Manners, where no topic is off limits as we uncover the secrets to feeling at ease in every situation. Mark Feng grew up in the halls of one of China's most iconic home furnishing empires, Markor, a brand often called the Ethan Allen of China. But this isn't just a story about furniture. It's a story of modern China. Mark and I are friends, and in this episode, we take a trip down memory lane. We talk about what it was like growing up in traditional Chinese families, getting educated in the US, starting our careers in finance, eventually returning to China to build something of our own, and now taking those Chinese brands international. When Mark's father, Richard Fang, founded Markor in 1990, China's middle class was just beginning to emerge. Suddenly, families weren't just focused on survival. They could dream. They could decorate. They could create homes that reflected who they were becoming. Today, Mark Feng is carrying on that legacy. A Harvard graduate and entrepreneur, he's taking the family company global and infusing it with the technology of tomorrow. Mark, welcome to the pod.
Thanks for having me, Sarah.
So tell us about the rise of Markor. Your father founded it in 1990 and foresaw a consumer revolution in China.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
So long story short, I grew up in a very artistic family. So my grandfather was one of the first movie actors in China in like the Communist Army. He was sent to the Xinjiang province, which is kind of like the northwestern side of China.
Yeah.
And my grandmother was his makeup artist.
Is that how they met?
They were childhood friends from the province of the central province of Shanxi. But then they both joined the army together, and then they just got different jobs.
Right, they joined the Communist Army.
Yeah.
Right.
So my father grew up on the movie sets, essentially, because that's, they traveled around to make these films.
And this was in the 50s?
This was
40s,
probably, in the 50s.
1950s.
Yeah, so, off stage, my grandpa used to do a lot of staging work. So they were making fake furniture of paper boucher. Back then in China, there's no props laying around. You have to build everything from scratch.
Right, so he did set production.
Yeah, so he did set production ever since he was a kid. And then fast forward, during the Cultural Revolution, he had to essentially start providing for our family at a very, very young age.
And tell our listeners, when was the Cultural Revolution?
It was probably 1967
67
to 77, around that period of time. So there was a lot of instability in China, and a lot of families were affected. So our family was one of the families that really struggled. So he had two younger sisters, and he started painting posters, and he started, doing arts and crafts to make a living. And then eventually, he was lucky enough to get admitted to like the local university, and he studied oil painting. And that's where he met my mother, who was also, an oil painting major. So after...
So your dad did the set production stuff?
Yes.
And then your dad was an artist?
Yes. Yeah, he went to school for oil painting. Yeah. So after he graduated, China started to open up under Deng Xiaoping.
Right, that was 1989.
Yep, it was right around when I was born. So his first job was he worked in some geological museum doing like set design and stuff.
So similar to what your grandpa had done.
Yeah, essentially the same craft.
In a geological museum.
But that didn't last very long because the money was not very good, and he had a whole family to provide for.
Which was you?
Which was his parents, and then also his sisters. So then he heard of, a lot of these private venues coming up. People are starting to build hotels, nightclubs.
This is the China in the
restaurants
1990s.
in the early 1990s, like 1989, 1990s. And then there was all of a sudden a need for interior design, right? Because you want to build this nightclub, but you don't have anybody to design it. So my father, having done this staging work, overnight he became very famous. I mean, he was on CCTV4 in the year 1990 because he was doing all these projects in northern China. So he quickly became the interior designer in China. And the funny thing happened, this is before the age of LinkedIn, the internet, right? You could literally be anybody. So all of his classmates from art school showed up on the essentially the job sites and pretended to be him. So he lost a lot of jobs that way.
And so they said, I'm Richard Feng.
I'm Richard Feng. Yeah. And back then there was no way to verify.
This is the shady thing about China. Even to this day, like there are people pretending to be people they're not. To this day.
Yeah. So then he heard of this whole exporting thing. And he was like, I wanted something that's a little bit higher barriers to entry. So he started manufacturing furniture.
And this was really the beginning of the manufacturing boom of China, right? After Deng Xiaoping opened up China.
Yeah, I mean, the reason why he heard of it was, everybody's talking about exporting.
Like 出口.
Yeah,
exporting.
That's kind of like the future, 出口贸易, right? So he's like, I don't know how to export anything, but I know how to make furniture, right? So that's how he got into it. And, my hometown is like the most landlocked city in the world, Urumqi.
Oh, yeah, right, which is the capital of Xinjiang
The capital
province.
of Xinjiang, it's the city that's furthest away from any body of water in the world.
In the world?
Yeah, so to export out of that city did not make any sense. And we also didn't have access to like good wood, right? It was pine. Pine is like a soft
it's
wood.
desert, because Xinjiang is desert.
It's part desert, part mountains.
No wood.
Yeah, there's a lot of like trees, but it's pine, it's soft wood. It's not desirable for making nice furniture, right? So he had everything against him, but because of his artistic craft, a large portion of the value in a piece of furniture is the finish. It's just the paint on the surface that make it look good, right? But him being a painter, he knew color theory like nobody else. So he taught his workers color theory, and he's able to mask these pine, bad softwoods and make it into something beautiful. So that was how the furniture business was started, and then we became a very large furniture manufacturing operation, and then we moved out to the coastal port of Tianjin. And then back in the year 2000, after we went public, we started the retail operation, which is kind of like the brand that you're aware of now, 美克美家.
Yeah, 美克美家 in Chinese, which is Markor in English. And when did the partnership with Ethan Allen, how did that happen? How did these two furniture worlds collide and learn from one another?
Yeah, so once we started doing furniture manufacturing, exporting, at one point we reached a lot of scale. We were doing thousands of containers a month. So we were supplying to Ethan Allen, was supplying to all the major brands in the US. But to my father, it was something that was kind of boring to him because from day one, he was an artist. He doesn't just want to take CAD drawings and designs from the people and execute these designs. So he has always dreamed about having his own brand and things like that. But at the same time, he didn't know retail, right? So he had to pick a partner. So at the time, the three largest furniture companies in the US were Thomasville, which is now gone, Ethan Allen, and Lazy Boy. So he flew them in to the middle of nowhere in Xinjiang. They had discussions, and Ethan Allen was the one that finally decided to partner with us, and we chose them because the CEO of Ethan Allen, Farouk Kathwari, also had a lot of similarities with my father in terms of upbringing. He's from Kashmir, and he also started from nothing. This kind of immigrant story. So we started doing that, and then we set up our first store in China.
For Ethan Allen?
For Markor.
Oh, for Markor.
And Ethan Allen. So what the arrangement was that it would be a store with two sides. One side would be Ethan Allen, and then the other side would be Markor.
And so with Ethan Allen, you had a manufacturing plus distribution, right? I mean,
it was mostly distribution. It was a little bit of manufacturing, but mostly distributing the brand for them. Yeah.
Your father was such a visionary to to know how to reach out to these 3 US furniture companies. And because your father doesn't speak a word of English.
No, no. Yeah, I mean, he's had translators, and sometimes
Yeah.
the story that he tells people is sometimes it's an advantage for him, because without being able to speak English, he's forced to focus on the quality and the execution. Right? It's no nonsense. You sign the contract. The business result is what you get. So he has built this reputation of somebody who's trustworthy, who always delivers, right? So he actually played that to his advantage. And also he's this extremely passionate person about the craft, about the design, about the art. So he knew these brands from day one. These brands also knew him because of his manufacturing and design capabilities. So he's always had this dream of, essentially building the best stores in the world. So when we first launched our store in the year 2000 in Tianjin, everybody thought, he was crazy, and the store started losing money because nobody was coming in for 6 months.
Well, why did people think he was crazy for wanting to open a furniture retail store?
Because the kind of the store that he was opening up was so fancy, right? So high end.
Did it look like an Ethan Allen?
It didn't really. It was kind of like a hybrid of Ethan Allen and Markor, which is our own brand. So the first customer that came in, they came in with suitcases because they wanted to check in, because they thought it was a hotel, right? So that's the degree of how much the store stood out. So it was ahead of its time.
Yes.
And I think we were lucky in the way that we built that store, and then the Chinese consumer started to get richer, their spending power, start to become bigger. So we he timed it just right. So all of a sudden became the household name of the Real Housewives of Beijing, the Real Housewives of Shanghai, and they started to call us, and they were like, hey, ask your delivery team to deliver slower. You guys are delivering too fast. We're like, why? And they were like, well, we wanted our neighbors to see it, so please come like after 5 p.m. Because we would have these nice delivery trucks and red carpets and whatever, and the brand is associated with,
it's a status brand,
right?
Yeah.
So all these customers wanted their friends and neighbors to see it. Yeah.
Wow. China was so interesting because I grew up in Hong Kong. And when I was 13 or 14 years old, I remember around in the year 2000, my parents would send me to summer camp in Beijing to learn Mandarin at Tsinghua, obviously. But it was like a bunch of Hong Kong kids going over, and you're just having fun. And I remember back then, and actually even before that in 1995, my dad sat on a couple of boards of energy companies in mainland China. So he had friends there, and we would visit a lot. And nobody had any cars. I mean, China was still very poor, like in the 90s.
Yeah.
I remember we had one friend who had a car. He actually had 2 cars and a driver. And we were like, whoa, he must be a really big deal. Because like in the 90s. And even in 2000, if you had a bike, it was guaranteed to be stolen. Like we would like go to a restaurant during summer camp, lock up our bikes, finish the meal, it would disappear. And so I can't even imagine, like, people could barely afford bikes or cars, let alone furniture at that time. So can you talk me through the economic conditions of post-reform China that enabled the emergence of a design-conscious middle class?
Yeah, I think it's a phenomenal story of what's happening in China over the course of my life.
Yeah.
Right. Like, because I vividly remember when I was growing up, and I was lucky to be born into a family of an entrepreneur. But I just remember the cars that my dad used to drive. Right. In the beginning, it was some Russian pickup truck that he had.
In Xinjiang.
Yeah, in Xinjiang, that I would ride on top of the engine. The engine was inside the cab, and it would vibrate so much. I would sit on that cover, and we would be shipping furniture and stuff everywhere. And shortly after that, we would have the Toyota start to come in. My dad had these Toyota pickup trucks, and then it was the Volkswagens, and then finally, I think in the year 1993, my dad had a Cadillac Fleetwood, And that car was actually, that story was in the National Geographic. There was this reporter that came to Xinjiang, and he saw my dad's car. He was like, how how do you have this here? Right. So that's just tells you the speed of the kind of the economic reform, the progression. Because my dad is just one of thousands and hundreds of thousands of Chinese entrepreneurs that was a part of the story of China becoming the world's manufacturing base, right? So that was very much the story in the first 10 years of my life, which is probably, from the early 90s to the early 2000s, is that China became the world's factory. So as a result of that, and, the Chinese government was very pro business and pro foreign investment. So it not only became the kind of the world's factory for the Chinese entrepreneur, but for a lot of global companies, they also leverage China as their manufacturing base.
Yeah.
So this huge growth, this explosion of business brought about the growth of high net worth individuals.
Yeah.
And Chinese mindset, where you park your money is in real estate, is in the stock market. So when they buy houses, obviously, they wanted the houses to look nice. And unfortunately, as a result of the Cultural Revolution, a lot of the cultural stuff,
was destroyed.
Was destroyed and forgotten, right? Not encouraged. So there is this void for lifestyle in China, right? Just like when you lived in China and you were educating people on manners and rituals, it was the same way. Like people had a place to live, but it wasn't the stage for their life. They didn't know how to stage it, right? They didn't know, what is beauty. So my father being in that space, I think it was just the right time. And then, from the 2000s to the next 10 years, it's really the story of the Chinese consumer, right? The Chinese consumer quickly becoming the largest luxury shopper. There's a lot of new money, right?
Yeah, it's a first generation wealth.
Right. With new money, we kind of see it as we're currently selling our furniture in around 100 countries around the world. So we see we're in countries where there's new money, people like bling, right?
Yeah. Like
people like to show it off, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Bling.
Yeah. So
fascinating. And what did furniture symbolize for Chinese families moving out of collectivist dormitories into modern apartments? Because back then, especially even during the Cultural Revolution, if you were a family, you were lucky to have a one-bedroom apartment to yourself, right? Most people were living in collectivist dormitories.
I think it was really kind of an expression of their, of their own expression and of their own aesthetics. It was finally a way for them to express themselves. So, in the past when I was growing up, everybody had the same furniture.
Which was what brand was it?
It wasn't even any brand. It was just like whatever we had. I mean, I didn't know what to, how to describe it. And even down to the plates and the cups that we drink out of, it was the same style. It's, if you think back to pre-Deng Xiaoping, like communist China, a lot of the things, like people didn't even use money back then to buy things, right? It was with tickets, and then you had these standardized shops, in the cities. So
and everybody's wearing the same thing, actually.
Yeah.
The what is it called? The Zhongshan Zhuang Ma was the Mao
right,
jacket.
Sure. There's those styled, and there's the army styled ones too. And if you work in the office, there's like a standard kind of thing. So people, very much blended in. But as China opened, that this kind of want for self-expression, came about so strong. And Chinese people, they love to host dinner parties, as you know, right?
But not at home, not at home initially, because when I moved to Beijing in 2012 to open my etiquette school, I realized that people were only in the first tier cities like Shanghai, honestly, not even yet in Beijing, were people interested in hosting in the home. Actually, back then, barely anybody, because it was seen as the home was really some place where only close relatives would come to, and it was much more grand to host dinner parties outside, to 订个包间, right, to have a private room, private function room, and that was considered more grand. But now obviously it's it's
Yeah.
been changing, and people
Yeah.
care more about the home now and entertaining in the home. That's that kind of the wave that I rode, like you said.
That's right. Yeah, yeah.
We were riding different waves.
Well,
You
more or
always
less
came
the same
first,
way.
and then
Right.
I am very impressed at how open-minded your father was to the West in the 90s. And in fact, before I even met you, because we met in 2018, I was already having meetings with Markor in 2013, 2014, where somebody in your BD division reached out to do collaborations. And I remember the CEO of Markor in China at the time was an American woman. And she didn't speak a word of Chinese. And I remember asking her, like, so it's so interesting, you report to your boss, right, the chairman, which is Richard Fang, your dad, and he doesn't speak a word of English. It's like, and you don't speak a word of Chinese. And, and she had nothing but amazing things to say about your father.
Yeah, I mean, I think, we're lucky in the sense that our grandparents brought us to Xinjiang, which is kind of, it's the middle of nowhere in China. It's like the Alaska of China.
Yeah. So
But
tell
it's
our
also-
listeners, it is the Alaska of China, except that instead of being on the northwestern border, you're on the northeastern, right? Or you're just
northwest. So we're
Oh, you
basically in the Middle East. Like we're next to all the stands. We're right under Russia, right? Like it's deserts. It's kebabs and naan bread and
I
camels.
love that, the yang rou chuar, a good lamb kebab.
Yeah. So it's historically, it's a big hub on the Silk Road, right? So it's been a melting pot for centuries of like Asian culture and Western culture. We even joke like the Italian pasta came from our
Xinjiang.
province, with the latiaos, like the hand-put noodles. That's where they
Yeah, the
got the
hand-pulled
inspiration
noodles.
for pasta. And the pizza also came from our province with Marco Polo, like because he like traveled to the east and then he brought all that back. So I don't know. This is
Right.
folklore. Like I don't know if this is accurate, but we've always prided ourselves of the melting pot of different cultures and stuff.
And people there look mixed, because I remember I was
Right.
buying my carpets from some guys from Xinjiang, and they looked kind of Middle Eastern. They had really pretty eyes.
Yeah, there's different ethnicities. So from a very young age, like my father grew up like singing Russian songs and eating Kazakh food, and so
And there were Uyghurs.
Right, yeah, and then the thing that he studied in school was essentially Western oil painting, right? So from day one, he had this global view, being in this like really landlocked small town. So he had this urge, this hungriness to get the global perspective. So when he started the exporting business, he started to travel everywhere, and that's how the brand came to be. So from day one, like we wanted to be a global brand as opposed to be kind of like a regional brand.
Wow. And what was it like growing up in the business? You mentioned how, from when your father started his business to the end, all the different cars that you sat in as he was doing deliveries. But what about watching the factories grow, watching the showrooms launch, watching the customers evolve? Tell us about that.
I think it's one of the things that I feel the most lucky about, me being able to observe it on the really like grow up from that experience. And the thing that I remember the most is, in the early days, I'm like, wow, my father is really rude. He's so rude to everybody. But as I got older, I started to respect. I mean, he's never like physically or like abusing anybody, right? Or like verbally abusing anybody. But he's focused on the detail, right? His attention to detail.
He's like an
his
obsessive
passion.
artist.
Right. Like you could go into any factory, any store, and if you're trying to get from A to B, it's not gonna take forever because he's gonna spot all the little problems. Oh, this painting it's just a little crooked. This bed is not made the right way. He will be physically, still to this day, he will bend over and physically make the bed. And in the factory, in our factory, like his rule is you need to be able to eat off of the floor. Like it's a furniture factory, but there's not a single piece of sawdust, and he's obsessive in that way. So when I was a small child, I didn't really get it, but ever since I took over, I'm like, wow, I kind of wish I had that much. That's it's amazing, to answer your question, to see him with one man, one dream, right? That willpower. He's he's essentially wheeled all of these beautiful factories, these gorgeous stores into existence. So it's been quite a journey. Yeah.
It's incredible. It's just incredible. And what was it like having him as your dad? Because he's clearly a perfectionist and
Yeah. Yeah.
holds himself to a high bar. And you're his only son, right? I mean, back then it was a one-child policy.
Right. Yeah. And
And he named you Mark, and the company is called Markor.
right.
Which came first?
Well, as you can probably guess, the company is not named after me.
Oh, really?
I'm named after the company. The company came first. Typical Asian dad fashion. I mean, he's so passionate about like his company. It's amazing. Like he's the opposite of a businessman. Like he still to this day he doesn't know how to read financials. He doesn't like have understanding of the P&L, but he is so visual, and he's so passionate about pushing the boundary in design and in delivering the experience, that he just kind of followed his heart. So when I was growing up, honestly, he wasn't around a lot. Like I kind of grew up with my grandparents. My mom, since I was 4, left me to go to the U.S. to help him with exporting business, and he's just, he leaves the house like 9 a.m. in the morning and doesn't come back till like 2 or 3 every night, right? Like he's just always crazy, working, networking, designing. So I didn't get much of him when I was growing up.
Which I feel is actually very typical. A lot of my friends who are art dai, right? There's a second generation and whose parents were entrepreneurs. They were all raised by their grandparents because the parents were just never around.
Yeah, yeah. And my grandma, who raised me because my grandfather passed at a very young age, she's just the most feisty lady in the world.
She's your nai.
Yeah, she's my dad's mom. She's the makeup artist.
Ah.
Yeah. So, yeah, but he's great. He's extremely passionate. He's also a really kind soul in that, like, a lot of people don't believe me when I say this, but he's never fired a single person in his life.
Oh, I think I remember the CEO telling me that as well.
Yeah, he's extremely loyal to his people.
And that's very Northern Chinese, I feel, right?
You can say that. I think.
Or that's just a him thing.
Yeah,
that's incredible. I mean,
Yeah.
how many employees does Markor have now?
Right under 10,000.
Wow.
Yeah. So.
But do you fire people?
Of course, like I fire people, right? Our managers fire people, but he never directly fired anyone in his life.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's, to his credit, like I didn't really get it at first. I'm like, how can that be? Like you're just creating complacency, like you're not setting standards.
Yeah.
But when he started the business in China, like there was no human resources in China.
Yeah, he did everything, right?
Right. You had to train, you had to build loyalty. So, our CFO, our most important executives have started working for him since they were like 18.
Wow.
Right. So it's a different kind of culture. Yeah.
Wow. Did you, so going public in the year 2000, that was a really big deal, right? Because that was probably one of the very early Chinese family-run Chinese companies to go public. What was that like?
I think it was very clear the reason for him, because he wanted to go public to go into retail. Oh. So that was a turning point for our company. We went from this manufacturing operation to this kind of brand first, retail first operation. So going public obviously raised us a lot of funds to be able to open these new stores. But it also created kind of like the consumer-facing legitimacy, the brand. Hey, we're a public company. We have this store. You can trust us. You can trust our brand.
Yeah. So in the year 2000, had you left Xinjiang to go to the States yet to join your mom?
I went when I was 14. So this was before I left, maybe 2 years prior to me leaving.
And where in the U.S. did you go? Where was your mom based?
My mom was based in Southern California. So
right around here in LA.
Yeah. So that's where I moved as well.
And so you grew up barely seeing your mom because she was mostly in the States.
Yeah. So that was quite strange. Hey, mom. I mean, I would
like,
see
hey,
her like
son.
twice a year, for my entire life, right?
And how long was each time? Like a couple weeks?
Probably a few weeks. Yeah. But I moved here and we lived together for 4 years, and then she's obviously a great mom, and she she helped me get into the school that I wanted to get into.
How was your English then? Because you came from
I-
Xinjiang. Did you go to a local school in Xinjiang?
Yeah, I went to like a local public school in Xinjiang.
So you were just
obviously.
all Mandarin.
All Mandarin.
I
yeah.
mean,
So I mean, I couldn't speak a word of English when I first got here when I was 14. So that was quite an experience as well.
but you
Yeah.
managed to still get into Harvard undergrad and Harvard Business School. I remember in 2018 when we met, and it was because Markor, I'd done some collabs with your brand, with your company, and I was hosting an event in Beijing for the campaign launch of some new series. I forgot what it was. And somebody at your company had said, oh, by the way, our founder's son is going to be here. He also went to Harvard Business School. And I was kind of like, yeah. I've heard that so many times. I'm sure, he did a 2-week course or like a 2-day weekend course at Harvard Business School and now puts it on his business card. Because that's what people do in China, right? And then when I met you, I was first of all like, who's this good-looking young man? And then secondly, when you told me you went to, like, you did the proper HBS 2 years and you did Harvard undergrad, I was like, how is this possible that someone who grew up in Xinjiang, not speaking English, managed to find his way, to the American dream?
Yeah. Long story short, I think I was very lucky. I was very lucky. Couldn't speak a word of English, but I did work my ass off in high school. So took all the classes that I could, and then I was lucky to have extracurricular kind of talents. I was a good athlete, so
What did you?
I ran the hurdles, and I was able to go to state championships and whatever. And
Wow, for
captain of the
California?
track team. Yeah, so
That's a big deal.
because my father happened to be like, he was a very fast runner as well. He was like number 5 in the province for like the 100-meter dash or whatever. Right? So
Wait,
lucky genes.
This is like in the 60s.
Yeah. But in China, I was a nerd. Like, I was such a nerd, right? Because I mean, growing up in China, like, if you want to be the popular guy at school, you gotta be a good student, get all the good grades and whatever, and all the girls will pay attention to you. But when I moved here, I found out it's like not the case. It's the opposite. I'm like, okay, so I got to do some sports, and then I started. Obviously, I'm not coordinated enough to do anything else, but I could run, so so I did that. And I had some like music talents. So
Were you in a cappella at Harvard undergrad?
And I was the conductor or whatever.
Of a cappella?
Yeah, I was in some bands. Well, Harvard undergrad, I wasn't in a cappella. In high school, I was doing that. So all of that combined with leadership and being involved.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just,
US loves that. Well, the leadership.
Yeah.
So what was the moment that you decided to take the reins, or your father decided you were ready to take the reins? Because now you're CEO of Markor and all the brands underneath it.
Yeah. So long story short, he didn't even want me to like work in banking after college. He was like, hey, you got to come back. I need you right now. Like, but I was like, hey, Dad, like, I know I grew up very fortunate, right? So I was like, it's kind of important for me to prove to myself that I could stand on my own.
Yeah.
So like that, I would like to work for somebody else or like get a job.
Yeah.
He's like, okay, son, like, I respect you for that. Like, just go have your fun. So I did.
In reality, you just wanted to live in New York City and party your brains out.
Well, I actually lived in Hong Kong, actually.
Oh, you did banking in Hong Kong?
Yeah, I did banking in Hong Kong.
And party your brains out.
Yeah, well, I didn't really party that much. I was actually working very long hours. But so after banking, at the time we had a chemical business, and then he wanted to take it public, but it didn't work out. So I was like, hey, he was like, now you got to come back. Now you've worked for somebody else. It's time for you to come back.
And you were how old at that time?
I don't know.
23, 24.
20 something, right?
Yeah.
23, 24. But I was like, Dad, like, I'm not ready to run a business. Like, I just learned how to format PowerPoints and Excel for 3 years. Like, I actually didn't learn that much. So I was like, can I go to business school? Because, I was like, hey, I'm being the only son. I always knew that
you have to take over.
I have to take over. So I'm like, I need to equip myself and ready myself as fast as possible. So I went to HBS, and I actually loved the experience, loved everything that I've learned. And then after HBS, because you go to HBS and you meet all these ambitious people,
So
and then you get all
inspiring.
these crazy ideas.
Yes.
So after HBS, I'm like, hey, maybe I should start my own company, and Silicon Valley and all this stuff. And but my dad was like not having it. He's like, hey,
You put it off long enough.
yeah, now you got to come back. And he actually left it up to me. So he's like, hey, it's your choice, but here is this 10-page letter that I wrote for you
Wow. Oh my
on why
gosh.
you should come.
And he wrote it in Chinese. And how was your Chinese at
wrote
that
it in
point?
Chinese. My Chinese is great because I left when I was 14, right?
Right.
So yeah, but it was really like a touching moment for me. Like I read his handwritten letter to me, and I made up my mind prior to even reading the letter. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna disappoint my dad. Like, hey,
Yeah.
I'm gonna do it for you. But having the kind of like I think he's also very great in instilling in me that, hey, this is not forced on you, right?
Yeah,
Like you had the
yeah.
option. So I joined right after B school, and it's been like 10 years. Yeah.
Wow. And when did you become CEO?
So immediately, this is also something that I respect a lot of him as well. He made me CEO of the U.S. division. I was just a kid, like right off of B school, and everybody who reported to me were like twice my age, right? So that was very difficult, and I had to build my respect and build my credibility. So I think maybe about 2 years after that. No. Yeah, but it's probably 4 or 5 years ago he made me the chairman of the board of the whole operation.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what did you want to modernize, and what did you want to innovate, right? Because you've done quite a few changes in there, and I feel like you're building a global vision for Markor while staying true to its roots.
Yeah. So when I came on board, I had a really democratic, open discussion with the entire team, and the first thing that we did is to revisit our mission vision, right, to make sure that everybody knew what it was, because a lot of people didn't even know what it was. I think long story short, my goal is to essentially elevate the business and to disrupt ourselves before somebody else disrupts us, right? Like to follow his footsteps, but not going in the same direction. We gotta adjust to the time, adjust to the changes in the world. So when he was leading the company, he is this very kind of charismatic, inspirational leader who started, with essentially a group of kids, right? So he had to micromanage everything, dictate basically every single decision. And I had saw that in order for our company to go to the next level, we have to become more democratic. We have to be able to attract the best talent that are actually better than ourselves, right? So we don't want to turn into a culture of one genius and 10,000 helpers.
Which in
Right.
China you see so often, right?
It's very common.
The CEO is
Yeah.
a dictator and micromanages, and everybody else doesn't have much agency, and they're
Yeah.
kind of just too afraid to do anything. And you do see a lot of second generation like yourself coming in and having that more Western vision, where it's like, we need to
Right.
professionalize this, we
Right.
need to make it more democratic.
Right. Yeah. But still, it's kind of like but not exactly a democracy. But if
Right.
it's a true democracy, then
No,
nothing gets
yeah,
done.
yeah, yeah.
It's like a benevolent
Dictatorship.
dictatorship in a way that everybody gets heard. Like you have no ego, right? You allow people to make the decisions, but still at the end of the day, you own
Right.
the output of the entire operation. So, I think the biggest change was to removing egos
Yeah, which
internally,
yes.
which
In China, there's so many egos, especially like
Yeah.
because it's so what is it called when it's so hierarchical, and even in meetings, if you're in a meeting, if the most senior person on a team is there, they let him do all the talking, and nobody below him dares even open their mouth.
yeah,
So it is a cultural thing, I think.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So now you've taken Markor global, right?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the vision is from China to North Carolina and beyond.
Mm-hmm.
You have a 147,000 square foot, what do you call it, a showroom
Mm-hmm.
in North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
And you also just showed at Milan Design Week.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me a little bit about what you're thinking here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think we are um, one of the kind of like the best kept secrets in like the global home furnishings world because we're very well known in China, like a household name.
Household name.
But outside of China, we are um, perhaps one of the most global home furnishings operations in the world. But we've been operating in the B2B world primarily. So, in the US and in the Middle East, in Europe, in South America, in Southeast Asia, we distribute under four B2B brands. So ART, Caracal, Rowe, and Jonathan Charles. So, and then we're also behind a lot of hotel projects. We're behind a lot of B2C brands like RH or Lulu and Georgia, or, you know, so we're also unique in the way that we're completely vertically integrated, meaning that we not only manufacture, but we also design, we wholesale, we source. So we're kind of one of the few last remaining one-stop shops in there. And the reason why we do that is, I firmly believe like to truly have something that is considered a luxury good, you have to own your own supply chain. You have to own your own operations. That's how you kind of continue the craftsmanship and everything.
It's like Hermes, right?
Yeah, kind of like that. Yeah, but yeah, it's all kind of in this passion we have for bringing beauty into the world, right? That's kind of our mission is we are the dreamers and builders of beautiful living in the world. So we design it, meaning we help people dream it, and then we turn it into real life because we have the manufacturing, the sourcing. So.
And what do young Chinese consumers want right now? Is it minimalism? Is it sustainability? Is it personalization?
It's all of that. There's also, I think the Chinese young consumers, they're also craving culture in a way that we're finding is pretty interesting. They're actually, gravitating towards things that relates to Chinese culture. There is this new trend called 新中式, essentially
Yeah,
the
new
Chinese
Chinese
style.
style, 新中式.
Yeah, but then there's also your kind of global trends that you have. This whole thing called 奶油风, which is kind of like your
Cream.
beige everything, right? Like
Everything being
white
off-white
everything.
kind
Yeah,
of.
yeah.
奶油风,
Yeah, and then there's kind of 老钱风, which is kind of like this.
Yeah, old money,
old
like
money
stealth
style.
wealth.
Yeah. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Or do you think China's a couple years behind or a couple movements behind the US? I do feel like these trends start in the US.
I think, I think for home furnishings, it's very interesting because there are things that we look from fashion that will permeate into the home space. But I think it's also a very regional thing. Like it's hard to pinpoint on what like a global trend is because like each part of the world, what's trending in home design also depends on the local architecture, the local climate. Like for example, when we do business in the Middle East, we don't sell leather sofas because it's too hot, right? And then the American household, like if you're in a coastal city, you like this kind of reclaimed wood, casual style, right? And you can think of RH, that kind of look, or Serena Lily. But in China, that's completely non-existent because people don't really have, big houses and villas overlooking the water. Most people live in these high rises. So in China, the more popular styles tend to be a bit more formal. So like your contemporary, modern, like Italian look, or modern European, or Art Deco, like that kind of goes more in tune with the architecture that people live in.
Yeah. And how have home aspirations shifted post-pandemic in China or in the US?
I think in the U.S. we definitely saw a surge in home spending, right? As a result, people started to value the home more for a few years, and then people started to do all these like renovations. So they wanted new furniture. They wanted to turn their home into their social space. And then we also saw a trend of these open floor plans, these open kitchens and whatever. People are getting tired of them because if you're locked in a house, you don't want to see your spouse like all the time. So screens and dividers.
So that's the US?
That's the U.S.
Interesting.
Right? But then, like as of the past few years, actually the home sales in the U.S. has not been great, right? Because of the interest rate and all these things.
Right, high interest rates.
So people are spending more money on travel, on experiences. So, that's kind of what happened in the U.S. In China, that COVID bump never happened for whatever reason.
So
right?
during COVID, people were not spending more
People
on furniture in China?
were not spending more on furniture. Well, for one of the simple reasons is that the lockdown were enforced much better in China, right? So when you're locked down, you don't really go out to shop.
Yeah, I was one of the 25 million people in Shanghai that stayed in my apartment for a 60 day lockdown.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, the property market in China is in kind of like a trough right now, right? It's not
moving. Valuations are dipping,
right.
even in super prime areas like Shanghai.
Yeah. So there is this big scheme of Chinese people spending less. But we're finding that the people who are passionate about design, who value a great home, they're still spending maybe not as much as they did before pre-COVID, but they're also kind of smarter because of ChatGPT, and the Chinese consumer nowadays is very well traveled. So there's a saying that I was talking with the RH CEO, and he was like, "Hey, to win the Chinese consumer, you don't build a store in China. You have to build a store in Milan, in Paris, in London, and in New York, and that's how you win the Chinese consumer."
And he was the CEO of RH?
Yeah.
Wow. Which is a high-end furniture brand.
Yeah.
Tell us about your latest ventures, DecorX and your Feng Shui analysis app. I mean, our listeners love it when I talk about Feng Shui.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, it's fascinating, right? Like, the reason why I started kind of the DecorX startup, which is essentially AI for interior design, is that I was back at HBS for a reunion, and they have these classes at reunion that all the nerds go to. So I was one of these nerds.
Yeah, I go to them too. Yeah.
Taking notes, and there was they were showing us this early version of DALL-E, which is this Gen AI image generative tool, right? It was
DALI, DALI or DALI.
DALLE.
Oh, DALI. Yeah. Okay.
So back then it was very basic. It was like, hey, show me a cat in space, whatever, and a cat in space would appear. But I saw that, I was like, wow, this is gonna change the way that we design.
Yeah.
And visualize for the home, because like the biggest problem in interior design, home furnishing, is visualization. There's all these tools over the centuries, right? Like mood boards. It's just an imperfect way to help people visualize. Imagine this stone, but in that room, right? That's all it is. So I was like, wow, this is gonna have some impact. So I raised my hand. I was that person to ask the question after the case study. I was like, hey, Professor Lakiani, how do I implement this in my furniture company? He's like, I'm not going to give you an answer. Take my $5,000 online course.
Spoken like a true Harvard Business School professor.
So I did that.
Did he offer you some like $100,000 consulting on the side?
Some other professors did. Yeah. I didn't go with that route, but I took the course and my mind was blown.
Oh, wow.
Okay,
So it was worth it.
This is the future. And the more I learned about AI, the more it made sense, because from the very early days, like me and my father, we obviously, one of our most difficult job is to manage creative people and challenge them and raise the bar. And a lot of times it's subjective and it feels like a stab to the heart to these people.
Right.
Right? Because they're
artists. Yeah, they're
right.
artists.
Everything is like, I'm pouring my heart out. How dare you just stab it? So like what we've been telling our team for ages, that we don't believe in talent, right? In creativity, like what we believed in is the 10,000 hours or whatever. Like if you have no taste in fashion or no taste in the home, I would just encourage you to read magazines. And you make that like a habit.
Yes.
And once you read enough of them, you start to see patterns. You start to put colors together, shapes together, and you start to develop a taste, right? So, and so when I started learning about how neural networks worked,
how neural networks in the brain.
In the brain as well as in the AI models.
You should take some psychedelic drugs. That's the best way to learn about it.
It's exactly the same. It's nothing more than association, right? Pattern recognition, how neurons connect, and how these AI models, these neural networks in the AI model work. So I was like, wow, this is fundamentally what creativity is, what design is. And to me also, like, the risk is very low, right? Because if you're in the medical field, if AI does something wrong,
you die.
Hallucinate, you die. If you do it in design, it's a beautiful mistake. Right? So that's why, we went into it, and it started out from like an internal project. It's essentially you take a photo of your room, and then there's a lot of AI tools out there. You take a photo of your room and it restyles your room.
Yeah.
But all the furniture is fake. Like, so okay, it's cool, but like,
where can I buy it?
yeah,
where can I order it?
What's the use of that, right? How do you monetize that? So from day one as a furniture company, we're like, okay, instead of all this 3D like CAD drawings and floor plans, and then 4 weeks later a screenshot, you take it to the customer. What if we do that with AI? But the key problem was, how do we train the AI to maintain consistency on what the furniture look like? So we spent a lot of time training the AI to do that, and finally we had a breakthrough. In the beginning, people were like, this is impossible, Mark. But I always thought that the AI models would get better. So I just need to build a connection so that when it is better, like, I'm ready to ship, right? So that's what I did from day one, and luckily it worked. So
how long have you been working on this? Because it just launched this year.
Yeah. But the internal project started roughly around like a year and a half ago. In 6 months, we shipped the project, and then I took it to essentially all the furniture trade shows that I'm in, giving it for free for my dealers in the world to use it. But some of our clients, like Bloomingdale's or whatever, furniture stores, they would come in like, oh, this is a great technology, but can you build it for me also? Right?
So they want their own app.
Yeah, so that's when the idea came about, okay, I should put this as a separate company so that I would, essentially take on these retailers as clients, and I would help them essentially use AI to visualize their product, also use AI to better describe their products, generate tags for SEO, create chatbots for them. So that's kind of the things that we're starting with. And then, the feng shui thing is
is that a separate app, or is it still part of DecorX?
It's still, it's essentially the same model, but, feng shui, as you know, is nothing more than a set of principles, right? It's patterns. So, we've trained the AI model on that. It's scarily good at analyzing feng shui.
And tell our listeners about, what those patterns are.
Yeah, so, you have, this principle of qi, right? Like the energy flow in the room, as you know. So, like, how you navigate a space. Like, you don't want to make your home feel like an obstacle course. Like, that's not going to be conducive for like productivity or relaxation, right? You also don't want sharp angles pointed at you, right? That's all related to the qi. And then there's, a principle called like the commanding position, right?
I love that,
Like,
the kaoshan, right? Well, you have a kaoshan or
yeah, well, it's there's also kind of like the orientation of the house, that kind of caution, but that's not what we're talking about within the space, because like you're not able to turn your house, right? Like
Oh, I mean, like,
but like within a room,
you have your back to the wall
yes,
and you're facing
yes.
a door.
Yeah, so like you want to be in the commanding position of the room. So there are general rules, and then clutter is never good, right?
Affect your prosperity.
Exactly, color, and then the different elements, right? The water, the wood, the fire. Like you want to balance of the elements. So we've taken the more kind of because like when we talk design, we like to link it to neuroscience, right? Like a beautiful curve is beautiful because biologically we're wired to appreciate that, right? It's off of the golden ratio, or it has symmetry, just like how we find each other attractive. Like your face needs to be symmetrical, because if it's not, you probably got some disease that I don't want my babies to have, right? Or like if a forest is not symmetrical, if some trees fall down, it's probably a sense of danger. So like it's actually there's a study, people who are studying this, like how neuroscience linked to our perception of beauty. So that's like in concert with modern feng shui as well, right? It's not exactly a Chinese philosophy, but it's actually backed by biology and how we like perceive the world. So we put those principles in, and then we're able to, you take a photo of your room, and then we essentially analyze that room for you, and we give you a score. We provide recommendations.
This is a feng shui score.
Yeah, so there is a feng shui score. Like,
and what is like good or bad? I mean, does it have to be over 90 to be good? Or?
Yeah, I mean, my own room, I think I took it was like 85.
What makes a piece good feng shui in terms of the materials, the shape, the placement? Like, an individual piece of furniture.
That's a good question. I think like one of our brands, Caracal, it's deep in our philosophy that a piece of furniture has to bring you joy. So our three kind of ethos for the brand is sensory, elegant, and hopeful.
Wow.
So like I had a moment during COVID. I just moved houses, and then we were trying to get furniture. I couldn't get furniture for like 3 months.
Even your own furniture?
Even my own furniture, because it was stuck in a container ship in Long Beach, right? So I ate off of the floor. I had camping chairs. I slept on the ground. So like you don't need furniture to live. Like
you don't.
I was okay, right?
Okay.
But then when the furniture finally came, 3 months later, I remember my wife just like broke down crying.
Oh.
It was such like an emotional, right? It's just like you don't really need clothing, but it's dignity, right? It's your self-expression. It's like what makes your life beautiful. It's like you're setting up a stage for your home, and that's the stage for love.
Yeah.
That's a stage for
family,
growth, family, right? So in that sense, like your stage is hugely important. Like if I had this coffee table, which is round and it has this beautiful like hexagonal pattern, which is probably come from bees, from nature, right? Like there are studies that you look at a wood grain and it would actually make your heartbeat slower, right? So
when you look at wood grain,
yeah,
it makes your heartbeat slower. I can see that.
Yeah. So like because biologically, like not our intelligent active brain, but our lizard brain, if you will, right? The biological like survival brain.
Yeah.
We're wired to instinctively jump away from snakes, right? Like not touch like a cockroach, right? It's the same way that we see a wood grain, or we see florals, or we see nature-inspired curves or patterns. It actually puts us at ease. So to go back to your question of feng shui, I think for us it's less about the Chinese auspicious like principles, but more kind of nature inspired design principles that we like to start from, so that when we end up with a product, we like to say that each product has a piece of soul.
And tell us about the piece that most recently President Trump sat on when he was visiting the Saudi princes. He was in some negotiation, and I saw you posted on your Instagram stories. He was on. It was a Caracol sofa, so it was one of your brands.
It was an ART sofa.
Oh, ART
yeah,
sofa.
Yeah. So yeah, it's just our furniture, because we're like one of the best kept secrets in the industry. Like we're well known in the B2B space. A lot of interior designers use our products. So our furniture end up in weird places that we don't know of, and all of a sudden, this retail partner goes, "Oh, look, Trump and the Saudi prince were sitting on the ART sofa." So it's honestly an old sofa that's been in our line forever. It's always been a great seller in the Middle East because it's got this kind of Art Deco exposed wood frame with upholstered seating. It's very comfortable. The fabric's very nice, and it's hot in the Middle East, so people don't want leather, right? And people like to buy 8, 12 sofas at a time.
In the Middle East?
In the Middle East, because their houses are big, right? They have these big halls that they would like host guests.
Right.
So they like to have the same sofa 8 times, 4 times. So it's been our line forever, but we had no idea it would be
under Trump's ass. So for our listeners out there, I think it's important to remember that when we design our spaces with intention, we shape more than homes, we shape legacies. Mm-hmm. Mark, thanks for coming on the pod today.
Thank you so much, Sara.
I have a gift for your wife.
Oh, wow.
In case she needs a top-up of Anti-Vorta, my feminine care brand.
Thank you so much.
Made with traditional Chinese medicine. Is she using it?
Yes.
Have you noticed anything?
No, but I've also been using it.
Oh, great. Where have you been using it?
Just as shampoo or just as
shampoo?
Body wash, like once in a while in the shower.
Yes,
I'll just do it, and it's got a nice scent, I don't know if it's prescribed, but...
Well, that's the first time I've heard of somebody using it as shampoo, but we do have a lot of customers whose husbands use it on their face as a face cleanser or body, and it's all with 中药, TCM.
It's only good for you.
It's only good for you.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to Mind Your Manners. Check it out on YouTube to watch the full episode and to see which sofa Trump was sitting on. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. This is your host and etiquette life guide, Sara Jane Ho. And remember, no matter what life throws at you, with me in your ear, you got this. I'll see you next Tuesday.